So here we are at CS225 0901 115 selection instruction number 1. At this point, you have to go to Solution Explorer, and on source files, you're going to right-click, Add, and then New Item. And then that'll allow us to create a C++ file. So I'll click over here. Yeah, so click Source Files, right-click, I should say. Then Add, then New Item. All right, so then this comes up. You want to create a C++ file. So over here, C++ file, we'll select this one over here. Source.cpp is the name of the file. That's okay, we can just leave it as is. And then we can click the Add button to create the C++ file. At this point, you type in the boilerplate code that I told you to type in. So that's going to be include iostream using namespace std int main system pause return 0. A little bit too big right here. That's fine. That's the boilerplate code that you type for every single C++ program that you're going to create in this class. And you also want to create comments to help you indicate what it is that you're going to do in this program. For example, you're going to declare stuff. You're going to get the user input. You're going to perform some sort of a calculation. And you're going to output stuff. So the 2 slashes indicates a comment. We call these single line comments. You should always do something like this. And then that kind of indicates how you're going to flow through the program. So now, let's create a program that asks the user for their score. Well, that means that I'm going to have to declare a variable called score. Now, I could declare this as an integer, as a double, as a different type of byte, say for example. I could declare it as any type of data that I want. The only reason why I'm declaring this as a double is because I want the user to be able to say that they got 97.5 on the exam. You know how some teachers do that, they 96.3. Well, if I declared this as an integer, the user enters 93.7, it only takes the 93, and it ignores the 0.7. Why? Because I am saying you have to put in your score as an integer. Well, what if I have 97 point something? The point something is ignored. But if I type this as a double, what the double does is it says declare this as a real number. In other words, you are allowed to put a number as a decimal point. All right. The next thing I want to do is I want to indicate some sort of a message to the user, something like, you know, you earned 97% or 77% or whatever. So I'm going to work with strings, and if you're going to work with strings, you have to include the string library. So at the top, go ahead and include the string library. All right. So by including the string library, now I can go over here and I can type in string message, and I'll set that equal to nothing or null. So this is a variable. It is a variable in that I can contain anything. Here, let me give you some examples of strings. There's an example of a string. It's my first and last name with a space in between. Let me give you another example of a string. This has numbers, letters. It's got some special characters over here, in this case a period. It's got some spaces in it. In other words, a string is anything that is enclosed in quotation marks, and it does not include the quotation marks. Well, in this case, I want to go ahead and declare a string and initialize it to nothing. So this string has nothing at the very beginning. Let's go ahead and ask the user for data. So I'll go over here. Oh, by the way, I forgot to put a semicolon. Sorry about that. And then over here where it says get user input, we'll say cout, enter your exam score. And then I want to be able to obtain that and put that into the variable score. So what cout does is it displays something to the screen. This is called the insertion operator. So we are inserting this into the screen. This is called the extraction operator. We are extracting something from the keyboard. So cout, display to the screen. cin, obtain from the keyboard. Well, now that I've got the score, I can determine if the user earned an A, B, C, D, F. So over here in the calculation section, I'll press enter. And I will use the if statement. You recall from previous programming classes that the if statement, we call that the selection structure. In C++, you type in if with an open parentheses, and then you type in whatever the Boolean expression is. A Boolean expression is something that evaluates to either true or false. In this case, I'm going to say if the score is greater than or equal to 90, and then over here, I'll put an open curly bracket, press enter. So what I'm testing for initially is if whether the score is greater than or equal to 90. If that is true, then I want to change my message. Notice that message right now is nothing. It's set to null. But here, I'm going to take message, and I'm going to assign it to something different. In this case, I'll say this. Your score of, and let me stop right here. Your score of, let's say the person entered 97. So I want to say your score of 97 means you earned an A. So how do I take that 97, turn it into a string, because it's a number, right? 97 is a number. How do I take that number, 97, turn it into a string, and then concatenate it to this already existing string? So we are going to use the plus operator. The plus operator, this symbol has multiple purposes. You know it as adding numbers. We can add this plus this. In this context, it is acting as a concatenation operator. A concatenation operator just simply means take this and put together. So let me concatenate my first and last name. Robert Solis together with no space in between. To concatenate means to put together. In this context of strings, the plus symbol is treated as a concatenation operator. Type in 2 underscore string, open parentheses, score, and then close parentheses. And we're not finished yet. I'm going to just talk about this. This is a number, score. Here it is. It's a double. What we are trying to do with score is to convert it into a string, because you can't mix apples and oranges. I can't mix doubles and strings or integers and strings. They have to be the same type. Well, what is this first thing? It's a string. I can see the open and close quotation marks. So this is a string. I am about to connect it or concatenate it to another string. I can't do that. Can't do this. That's a number. I can't concatenate a number with a string. So somehow I have to convert this to a string, and that's what this thing is. The function toString will take this and convert it into a string. Now I'm not finished yet, because I also want to concatenate an additional message. So that means plus symbol over here, quote, means you earned an A. Finally, semicolon at the very end. So let's go over this carefully. I have 3 strings. Check this out. Here's the first string. Here's this converted into a string. And here's the next string. I want to put all these together. What is the glue that combines or connects all these? It's this symbol right here. Now here we are not adding strings. We are concatenating strings. We're connecting them together. So this is being concatenated with this, which is being concatenated with this. Okay, well that takes care of score greater than or equal to 90. Now, I'll press enter, else if, parens, if the score is greater than or equal to 80. So I'm considering the next part, which is the score is possibly greater than or equal to 80. I'm checking for that. If that's the case, really the message is the same, except I have to put the letter B and change that to the word A, right? So it means you earned an A or means you earned a B. So I'll just take this guy over here, copy and paste it, Control C, Control V as in Victor, and I'll just change this to this. Everything else is the same. You are taking this string, concatenating it with this string, concatenating it with this string. Notice how I'm also being very careful with the spaces, right? The spaces. Otherwise, if I don't put these spaces over here, then everything is going to be connected. Like connecting my first and last name with no space in between. That wouldn't look good. So I deliberately insert those spaces. Now let's consider the code for a person who has earned a 70 or greater. So I'll just take this code right here, copy it, paste it, and change that to 70, and change that to the letter C. So programmers do stuff like this all the time, right? We take existing code, we copy and paste it, but we have to be very careful because if you're copying and pasting an error, now you are propagating an error. And boy, I mean, I've done that time and again. I'll probably still do it time and again. And all of a sudden I realize, oh man, I made this first error, I copied and pasted it, and now I have to undo everything that I've done and fix it. So I want to be cautious about that. Let's go ahead and take care of what happens if the user gets a D. So that means that this is 60%. You earned a D. And then finally, we will have an else statement. So the else statement is a catch-all statement. Do you have to have an else statement in your if statement? No, you don't have to have an else statement. The else statement is like, hey, if everything above is false, then do this. But I don't have to have an else statement. I could have an else if statement in this particular case if I wanted to. It's your choice. So in this case, I'll take this message. I'm going to modify it. If the else statement is the default statement, and if I've checked for A, B, C, or D, then this must mean you've earned an F. So I'll put this. 55. Okay, let's see. Is 55 greater than 90? No. Is 55 greater than or equal to 80? No. Is 55 greater than or equal to 70? No. Is 55 greater than or equal to 60? No. Since all of the above was false, message will be assigned. Your score of 55 means you earned an F. See how that worked out? We check from top to bottom. Notice the strategy of descending order for the variable score. I'm checking to see if it's 90, then to see if it's 80, 70, 60, so forth and so on. I've done that deliberately. By having this in descending order, really what I'm asking is a couple of things. Let me demonstrate that. Let's say that the person's score is 85. Okay. Is 85 greater than or equal to 90? No, it's not. Okay. So this is really asking two things. Is the score greater than or equal to 85, and is it less than 90? See, this is not just simply asking, is the score greater than or equal to 80? Let me explain why. If I have an 85, this is false. That means the score must be what? Less than 90. Very good. It can't be greater than or equal to 90 because I've just checked if 85 is greater than or equal to 90. It's not, so it has to be less than 90. So really what this is saying is your score greater than or equal to 80, and is it less than 90? Now, did I put that verbiage? Did I do this? And, sorry about that, and is score less than 90. This is the logical operator AND, right? You know about the AND operator from previous programming classes. In C++, we use the ampersand together to indicate logical AND. So I don't have to do this. I don't have to do this. Is the score greater than or equal to 80, and is the score less than 90? This is already going to take care of that for me. If the score is not greater than or equal to 90, then it has to be less than 90. Otherwise, if this were true, then it would be, in fact, greater than or equal to 90. Does that concept make sense? Okay. So there is a strategy to creating if statements in descending order. I could turn it around and make it into an ascending order problem as well. Again, it's up to you. The idea is this. There is order to your if statement. This would be inappropriate. Let me make a mistake. You just watch the show. I'm going to take this guy over here. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to put it over here. Get rid of that else and make this an else if. Okay, so what we have here is not a syntactical error. What we have here is a logical error. Syntactical errors, those are cheap. Those are easy to fix, and they don't cost the company a whole lot of money. Logical errors, people get fired for that. This costs the company millions of dollars. Why? Let's say that the student got a 95. Okay. Is 95 greater than or equal to 70? Yes, it is. Congratulations. Your score of 95 means you earned a C. That's not good. Logical error. Inappropriate placement of what I should have considered first, then what I should have considered second, third, fourth, and so forth and so on. See, we never even got a chance, if I got a 95, we never even got a chance to execute this else if statement, because the if statement is like your car stereo. You've got 5 buttons. You can't do this. You can't push all 5 buttons and listen to 5 radio stations simultaneously. You can only push one and all the others are disengaged. Or you push this one and the others are disengaged. So either this is true, or this is true, or this is true, or this is true, or this is true. But no, you can't have it where all of them, or maybe a couple of them are true, right? You can't have a windy, still day. You can't have a wet, dry morning, right? You can't have a married bachelor. There's some things that are just mutually exclusive. In this particular case, only one of these can be true. Does that make sense? Okay. So let me undo and put this if statement of if this is greater than or equal to 90, and then put that back over here. So I'm checking for 90, then 80, then 70, then 60, so forth and so on. All right. Now that I've established my if statement, I can go over here to the output section, and I can see out whatever message happens to be. And I'll put an end else statement to make sure that I go to the beginning of the next line. So the nice thing about working with strings is I can append to the string. I can change it, modify it. And then at the very end, just simply output it to the screen to indicate what that value is. All right, let me run the program. So that's F5, or clicking over here where it says Windows Debugger. Click yes. All right, enter your exam score. So let's say that I enter 95. Okay, your score of 95 means you earned an A. Very good. Now, you'll see that it has these numbers after the decimal point. That's because this is a double. Now, we can get rid of those numbers later. I'll show you how to do that. The idea is the if statement is checking for a letter grade. And since this part is true, that is that 95 is greater than 90, so the message, your score of, and then we take that 95, we turn that into a string. So this is what happens when we turn it into a string, means you earned an A. So let me scroll this over here, means you earned an A. Press any key to continue. Okay. So we can run the program again and check for 85, 75, 65, 55, so forth and so on. So our program is good, we save all, but it's not entirely robust. What if the user decides to enter -4? I got a -4 on my exam. Well, let's see here. Is -4 greater than 90? No. 80, 70, 60, no. Else, so in other words, if I enter negative numbers, this is going to say you earned an F. Well, I guess that's true, but I don't think a teacher would necessarily give you a -4, unless maybe they said, oh, you did this wrong, so that's minus this, minus that. I guess they could possibly do it, but you see what I'm saying. Maybe what we would want is if the score is greater than 0, but it's less than 60, then you could create an else if statement. So the idea is, based on whatever the score is, it'll display the appropriate message.